Welcome to the Gray Range Podcast. My name is David Rousseau. We're going to explore the poetry of how we live, how we learn, and how we find our way along this strange path we call life. If you are curious about people, their stories, and all things savage and wonderful, join me on the Gray Range. To do and just time, and then the guys at work are like, "Hey, Jordan Peterson's in town tomorrow night," and I was just like, "Oh man."
This is his religious tour, I believe.
Yeah, I got his newest book, We Who Wrestle with God. I haven't got into that one yet. I'm kind of got a big stack of books that I'm reading through right now, and
he's interesting.
Yeah, I appreciate his take on the scripture and he comes at things from kind of a scientific perspective.
The hard part about that book, I'm sort of about maybe halfway through it too. And it's, if you listen to any of his stuff, like now you're reading the book and it's in his voice. And you know how he kind of goes on these scatterbrained tangents?
Yeah. It's
almost like the book is kind of, I don't want to say it's a struggle to read, but it kind of goes off on some tangents too. And
when he's doing this in the video, you hear it in the words.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then you're reading it, it's going like all over the place too, kind of you're like, all right, like he does a good job, masterful of tying it back together. But
yeah, he's one of the first people I ever, he reminded me of a college professor that I had where you could see him think.
Yeah.
You could tell when he's really thinking about something because he'll kind of like stare off into the, that 1,000-yard stare, and then just kind of leave the conversation for a second, and then he'd come right back and be like, "Oh yeah, okay, I know what you're talking about." But that would have been a cool thing to see. Yeah. Especially being that he's from this area.
Yeah,
I thought it was pretty cool. I went to the GPRC once upon a time, and I was majoring in English with a minor in psychology. So kind of neat that at some point our paths intersected.
Yeah.
In that way.
I guess there's a fair bit of protesting out there too, and people holding the doors. And
yeah, I heard there was a few people. Some of my coworkers went, and they said that there was a handful of people.
Yeah,
that were out there, but that's obligatory for somebody of his gravity.
And it is. I mean, he's pulling the political side and the religious side now too. So
yeah, he's got his detractors, and he earns every single one of them.
Well, once you hit a certain size of platform, there'll be a percentage of haters that will follow you no matter what. It doesn't matter where you go after a certain while. There's going to be that 1% or something percent that's
he's made a point of taking on some sacred cows on both the right and the left.
Yeah.
So he's he's got his detractors and his haters on the left for whatever he's saying about trans youth or whatever, and then he's got his haters on the right for whatever he's saying about shit posters online and people just going on there to tear people down and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it is what it is though.
It really is. That's like the easiest way to say it is what it is, because I mean, everybody's got this opinion of what life is right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure we'll get into that, but like, holy moly, it's about who's loudest right now, and the quieter one, you're not allowed to have an opinion anymore. And I think we just got to live our life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got last week. My very first on internet comment where someone called me an ignorant white man.
Bro, and you earned it. Cheers. That was good.
I've been listening too. So,
but I mean, this is just somebody commenting on Instagram, I think.
Yeah.
But you can't say anything without having somebody else want to speak their piece. And, I've said it before, like, all the power to him. I'm a huge advocate for free speech. And if I say something you don't like, you have all the right in the world to say, hey, I disagree for this reason.
Yeah.
I don't have to accept that. I don't have to ever agree with you. I can agree to disagree. I can be like, hey, you're holding a totally different viewpoint than me. Your life could be diametrically opposed to mine. Yeah. And that's your right.
But let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Like that's where the massive disconnect in everything is right now, is if I disagree with you, there's this large group of people that are like, nope.
Yeah.
That's it. Not nope, because hear me out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
nothing. And there's no solution. It's just loud no's.
Yeah.
And everybody walks away.
Well, I think people think that we have to have this dialogue all the time, but we don't really. Like, if I understand where you stand on something and it's in opposition to mine, I mean, as long as it's not my right to exist, then we both still need to go get groceries.
Yeah.
We both need fuel for the car. Yeah. You know, we're both got to pay insurance and the mortgage and all that. Like we're always going to have more in common when it comes down to like the core life stuff than religious beliefs or political opinions or thoughts about, you know, whatever the government should do.
Yeah.
Then, you know, if we disagree, that's fine. You can disagree with me. We don't ever have to agree. We don't even need to talk about it. Right? I mean, we can if we want to really piss each other off. Well, but in the end, it's like, well, I can have this heated discussion with you. It's kind of like one of those things where it's like, if you live in a small town as an adult, or even as a kid, like you go to school, you get into a fist fight with somebody, and then you got to go to school the next day and see them. Right? So what's the point in escalating this thing to where we're like at each other's throats if I'm just going to have to see you in the supermarket parking lot tomorrow, right, with your kids and be like,
I mean, on the other side of that, there is a reason why they get to fight in hockey because they got to keep playing with each other. They got to get it out of the system. And then, I mean, I can think back to when I was a teenager. There was a couple times where we had to get it out of the way. And then, I mean, I still talk to some of those guys to this day.
Yeah. You know? Well, I think conflict and struggle and strife and that kind of stuff is pretty bred into humanity. Yeah. There's constructive ways of doing it. You know, you can ask Lucas. He's on the mats, jiu-jitsu twice a week. He's teaching kids jiu-jitsu. You know, there's a very, very constructive part of us that needs to do those hard things. And sometimes those hard things are, you know, punching each other in the head or trying to choke each other out and stuff like that. And then afterwards we're like, hey, yeah, right on.
Yeah.
And most of the people that participate in violence, in a constructive manner, you've got two sides of an argument. In the real world where you've got two sides hating each other, very few people stand back and ask, why do I feel this way? People that are immersed in violence are the first people to take a step back and be like, wait a second, why do I feel this way? Like, why does this statement or this opinion, why does it make me so angry?
Yeah.
Because they're used to they're already used to that part of it. Whereas people that are just rage farming on the internet, hurling insults, they're angry, but they very rarely step back and be like, okay, why? What's the root cause of what's driving this in me to, you know?
Well, I don't think people realize that everything that you say and everything that you do has downstream repercussions. Like you're just throwing rocks in the pond and it might look like you're throwing, you know, pebbles in there and making little ripples, but everything has a downstream effect. I was just reading an article this afternoon how there was a woman in Vancouver, a pregnant woman in Vancouver who was injured because somebody threw a Nerf football sized rock through her windshield because she was driving a Tesla.
Oh my!
Right. So injures her. She's okay. She's in the hospital, but she's, you know, but not, you know, critically injured. But here we are. You've got somebody acting out because of a political and a socio-political thing that's happening in another country, which they have no connection to whatsoever. But because they've been ramped up and radicalized by what they're reading online through their little echo chamber, they think it's a perfectly reasonable thing to throw rocks through people's windshields.
Has nothing to do with our country.
And
because of their car.
And they can't step back and realize that they are the product.
Yeah, you're the problem. This in no way affects Elon Musk.
No.
At all.
Yeah. It's a wild world that we're living in right now with that stuff. And it's I mean, I've had a few people that want to talk politics and I'm like, honestly, I don't believe anything until it's in front of me affecting me.
Yeah.
You can't anymore.
No, not with social media, not with AI, not with... Everybody seems to have an agenda, and even the people that don't have an agenda, the people that say they don't have the biggest agenda generally, they're like, oh, I'm just doing this for the goodness of my heart, or I just want to speak my piece, but everybody's got something that motivates them. They're doing things for a reason. I mean, I'm not doing this for purely altruistic purposes, right? I didn't just one day go, hey, I'll have a podcast and you know, not have anything behind it. Yeah, I've got my own motivations and all that stuff. I don't try and disguise it or say that I'm, you know, not politically affiliated or not religiously affiliated or whatever. I am who I am, and I'm going to have my own biases, and I'm totally open about that.
But there's a group of people that need that person to speak to them.
Yeah.
Right? Every group needs a person. We all do. We all need your voice. You know, I didn't know you when you reached out, and I'm still getting to know you, but I watched a whole bunch of the podcasts, and it was like, okay.
All right, be honest.
I know these guys.
Be honest. How is it?
It's good.
It's
good conversation, right? And one of the recent ones, I really liked the one with Chris Thiessen.
Oh yeah.
You know, that was just like, huh.
I actually learned a lot from that because I went from knowing nothing about municipal politics to kind of like, oh, now I'm color me interested. Now I'm, you know,
like let's all run.
Yeah. Well, that was the whole purpose of that one, right? Like, and I think because we just kind of started in the middle of a conversation.
We better introduce.
We should do a quick introduction. So, Kelsey Pelletier.
Yep.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Gray Range podcast. Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah. Glad we
I know I reached out through one of my, my patented like cold calls where I'm just randomly messaging people online. I'm like, want to come on my podcast?
Which come hang out in my basement?
Which altogether is not as weird as I found out it was, as I found out it is, because a lot of people have podcasts these days. But my wife and I were at the PBR Bull Riding, the last event they had at the Bose family. What is it now? Bonnets Energy Center.
The Canada Cup series.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm a huge fan of bull riding, so I like to take in whenever those events are in town. And then, so we got some good seats. We're right down, we're kind of right at ground level, just out by the chutes. And I see this big guy with a beard and a cowboy hat leaning over with a camera. And I'm like, man, he's getting some fantastic pictures. And then I kind of assumed like that you might have been with the PBR folks. And then I saw the T-shirt you were wearing was White Lightning Media, and I actually Googled it right there.
Yeah,
like right in the arena. I was like, "What's this White Lightning Media?" And I saw your stuff from Grande Prairie, and I was like, "Oh, that's perfect," because it's the media side of things. Like in a small city like Grande Prairie, we don't have a lot of local media. Like we used to have a newspaper.
Yeah,
and I think it's online now. We've got a couple of radio stations. Like a few websites that do some local stuff.
I miss newspaper.
Yeah.
I honestly, just on that note, I honestly miss the newspaper.
Yeah. I worked for the Herald for a very brief time.
That's awesome.
When I was, because I originally went to college as a pre-journalism. I was taking English and majoring in English and college didn't work out for me. But while I was there, I actually submitted a resume to the Herald Tribune.
Yeah.
And like 3 or 4 years later, I get a phone call, and it's like, "Hi, this is so-and-so with the Herald Tribune, and we're looking for somebody to work in our distribution area."
Yeah, they're still online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I dropped off that resume like 4 years ago. And I've always heard like people say, "Oh, we'll keep it on file." Yeah. And that's a nice way of saying like, get the hell out of here.
Shred it.
Yeah, exactly. But sure enough, and I was kind of at a job I didn't like at the time.
Yeah.
Kind of manual labor kind of job. And I was like, yeah, I'll come down for an interview. And it was like this massive pay cut. I think it was like a 50% pay cut. And I was like, well, it was my lifelong dream to be in the newspaper business. I wanted to be a journalist. So let's go see how the sausage is made. So
that's how it starts. I mean, that's how I started this. Same thing. Like I took a pay cut to do this every day. And
nice.
If I were to tell you it's been easy, I'd be lying right to your faces. Yeah. Like I've had guys come in and they're like, what's the secret? Like, just like how do you get to where you are? Like, give me some tips. I'm starting my business. Like, what do I do? And it's like, I hope you don't like sleep because you're going to lose a lot of it. And it's time and you're going to miss things and you got to turn it into what you love and just like everything that embodies that meaning. Like, I love rodeo too. So now I get to go to rodeos and work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Not just one rodeo. I get to go to a bunch of rodeos.
Yeah.
The sports. I love sports.
Yeah.
I get to go to sports and shoot them and be a part of the teams in a way that I don't think a lot of people see. You know, from the media side, like all the athletes, they want to be, they want you there because you're capturing their journey.
Yep.
Right. And for some of them, you know, they'll do their 4 or 5 years and it stops there. Some of them get to keep going, hopefully, but it's a lot of work and you just got to turn it into what you love. And I trying to put that into like a tip or a trick is like, it's tough.
No, it's all work. It's hard to describe it as anything else.
Mistakes.
Yeah.
Man, you got to make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. And the only way to do it is to get out there and do it and make the mistakes.
Yeah.
So, are you originally from this area, from the Peace Country? Where are you from originally?
So, I grew up east of Vernon.
Oh, okay.
In a small town called Lumbee.
Okay.
Graduated high school and hit the road for Grande Prairie. I mean, I've got family members up here.
Sure.
And kind of just worked ever since. And when I was younger, I started kind of, I don't know if you want the whole origin story here. Or
as much as you feel like sharing, man.
So like growing up, we were kind of in the mountains, even further east of Lumbee in a small town called Cherryville.
Okay, I'm trying to place that because I grew up for a very short time in McBride. So that's kind of closer, a little further northeast towards the mountains.
Yeah. So we were kind of like on the edge of the Kootenays.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So way further south.
And the Pinnacles, like
yeah.
Needles or Nakusp.
Yeah.
A lot of people have heard of that because of the hot springs. So that was kind of like an hour and a half past where we were, but we were kind of out in the middle of nowhere. We had a campground. My family had a campground, and we had a gold claim and everything. And
oh, nice.
Every Saturday I'd watch the fishing shows on TNN and watch Hank Parker and watch Bill Jordan's Real Tree Outdoors. And I was like, man, I want a hunting show. I want to have my own hunting show.
From way back then, you kind of caught the bug, eh?
Yeah, and I was like, I just like I don't care how I do it, and I'd run through the woods with my Red Ryder, like
hell yeah,
storybook,
exactly.
Like I had my Red Ryder, and I was on pest control.
Yeah,
the pack rats were everywhere down in that area, so get up here, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna start a hunting show. I'm gonna do it, and never did, but I sent an email out to a couple shows, and I was like, how do I do this? Like what's where do I start? And one responded and was like, we'll get you doing something. You want to be a cameraman? We can get you being that. And, started out and took every bit of vacation I had every time it came available. And I went and filmed for a couple shows out of Saskatchewan. And
oh, nice. Anything we know?
Back then it was Hunting Canada and Beyond.
Right.
And then Into the Wild.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And then
familiar.
Filmed a bit for Canadian Whitetail. And then, guys would come up to the deer camp, and I'd film there too. And
oh, that's awesome.
How long ago are we talking? Like when did you move up? Like when did you leave home and kind of come up to Grande Prairie?
2006.
Okay, so we're
yeah. So I mean, I'm from here now, right?
Yeah,
me too. I came up here for 5 years in 2003.
Man, I got a story about that too. That's such an interesting thing. Everyone's 5-year plan, and they're all on year 20.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and just along the way, some of the cool things have happened. Like I'd watch Hank Parker. I don't know if you might, working in the hunting industry, you might know Hank Parker.
It sounds passingly familiar, but.
So he's got Hank Parker's Outdoor Magazine. He's been a Bassmaster champion a couple times.
Okay.
I ended up filming him a couple times.
Oh, right.
The guy I used to watch every Saturday.
So was that up here? Or did you travel for that?
That was in Saskatchewan.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Saskatchewan's got some killer fishing up north. I had no idea.
So he was there to hunt. So that was the Outdoor Magazine, or I can't remember what their show was he was doing with his boys, but and then another one like Stacy David. I don't know if you guys were into trucks at all. The show Trucks.
Not offhand, no.
So that was another one on TNN
that
I watched every Saturday, because it was like you'd watch the hunting shows, and then the 4x4 TV
I remember
and then
TNN.
Trucks and all that would come on. Ended up filming him here, so it's like it kind of it's just unraveling itself, and I sometimes poke my head up to breathe, and I'm like, holy
childhood dreams starting to come true.
Holy crap, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Guys messaging me to be on a podcast. I'm like, what did I do?
Well, that's a lot of it's right time, right place, and all of it is 100% of it is getting out there to do it.
Yep.
You experience nothing from the couch. Right. You have to put your hand up and say, yeah, I'm the guy. You have to stick. This guy taught me that when we were training a lot of martial arts and stuff like that. It was like, if you're not first, you're last. And if you want to get engaged and be part of the experience, then jump in. Be feet first, all the way or all the way in or all the way out.
Yep.
Right. There's no half-assing life.
You're a full asset.
Yeah, exactly.
Always.
And it seems that pays the biggest dividends is asking those questions and doing the unlikely things that like no people are like, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah. Well, one of the athletic director gave a speech yesterday and he said something about sports. He said sports is you get 100% what you put in back. And I mean, that's life in general. Yep. If you want to do something, you can do it. Like you don't need to wait. Oh, I don't have money to buy this or do that. Like, man, if you want to be a videographer, get your phone. Yeah. Phones are $1,500 now for a reason. Yeah. The cameras are unreal on them. Yeah. Like,
I got the new S24 and it's incredible.
You know, there's people filming weddings in the States and in Canada, but in the States on their iPhones.
Yeah.
And sure, it looks a little hokey when you roll up and the bride's like, oh, where's the camera?
Where's all your Gucci equipment?
Right. But but it does really well. And a lot of the stuff, like my camera or my phone versus this, you can't tell the difference.
Yeah, exactly. And you're, before you'd be putting together a system, you're spending money on, Rokinon lenses and stuff like that. And now you can do so much with that phone, with software and AI and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So just it's like you say, you can't do anything from the couch. Get up there. You want to do it, go do it.
I know I should caveat that because I know several people who've made pretty great careers with video games. And I remember shit talking all those people. I was like, man, you're never going to make anything of your life just sitting at home. We'd be out Friday night, go doing stuff Saturdays, and they'd be just sitting in their room, sitting in their apartment, playing video games. And then 10 years later, they're like, well, what do you do? Well, I work for BioWare. Yeah. Or I have a YouTube channel where I stream games and I pull in $150,000 a year. And it's like, fucking A, man, where to go?
I even tried that out too, the gaming thing, because I wanted to know how to use the open broadcast system, the OBS, in case someone ever wanted me to live stream something.
Sure.
I wanted to know my way around it. So we messed around with that when we weren't allowed to be around anybody. Yeah. What a perfect time to do it. Yeah. And you can make money doing that. Like if you want to, but it's a lot of work, like anything. If you want to just play video games and hope like $1 million contracts in a roll your way, like good luck.
Yeah, my cousin's got I don't remember the name of his channel on YouTube, but that's what he does. He's got a gaming channel aimed at like younger people for kind of younger games. So he's doing a lot of like Minecraft and stuff like that. But he was a very early adopter, like a very early streamer. So he's very well established that particular thing.
That's awesome.
But like he bought a house like 5 years ago. Like you bought a house from playing video games, man. Like
look him in the eye and chirp him now. Look, anybody that's like you bought a house by playing Minecraft, did you buy a house? Well, no, I still rent.
Like, exactly. And how many kids right now are at home? Not even kids. How many adults or just people in general are at home, burning 10 to 12 hours a day, sitting there playing games? And by all means, like whatever turns your crank. I used to game quite a bit. Not something I've picked up in like 10 years, just no time, right? Yeah. It becomes I think when I started shooting guns for real, I was like, just kind of put down the controller and I was like, oh, I can go and run and gun with like former Canadian Forces guys and hang out with these guys and, do martial arts with guys who like have been there and done that and done cool stuff. And those experiences are heads and tails levels above the simulated experiences. But yeah, when you got guys, well, I guess not just guys and girls now who are turning that into a very lucrative living. I mean, it's what it is. I mean,
kudos to them, man.
You got to.
As long as they're not on OnlyFans. That's all I can.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's
Feet Finder.
Whatever, man. There's a lot of desperate people out there.
It's it's something else. I mean, I always advocate to people if you're good at something, find a way to monetize it. Like I loved this. I got good at it. So I was like, I got to take a run at this. So, I was fracking.
So what grabbed you first? Was it like the hunting end of it, or was it the camera end, or like the photography end of it?
Well, I've always loved hunting. I mean, we grew up in the mountains, in the woods. Like, I grew up. I shouldn't say we. I grew up in the woods, and I mean, being in the outdoors is...
You have siblings?
No. Well, half brothers, but
yeah.
We grew up separately. It's being in the outdoors, man. It's just something that you can never bottle. It's nothing you can bottle up. Like, and it doesn't matter if you just got dropped in the middle of nowhere with nothing. Like, you take an hour and you're just like, I'm good. I'm good now, you know? Or if you got to drive 2 hours to get out there.
Yep.
You know, fishing, sitting in the middle of the lake. So realistically, I picked that up first. I loved the outdoors. That was my sibling. The outdoors was my sibling, you know? And once I started filming, it really honestly started with skateboarding videos.
Oh yeah.
Like that picked up when I was in high school.
Yeah. And those guys were just doing wild stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't have the coordination. I was okay. So I was like, man, I'll do the video stuff for you guys. And
yeah,
you know, it was cool.
All right, Tony Hawk, I got you with the camera.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. Like I was the same way. Like you'd kind of end up, you know, captured by these skate videos back in the day, because these guys are doing stuff with cameras and cuts and music that turned them into rock stars, right?
Yeah.
Like these just average dudes from your town, and you'd find out like so-and-so's in the latest, you know, Bones Brigade video or whatever, and you'd be like, oh, we got to head down to the skate shop and watch this video for this 8 seconds that somebody you know is in it.
Yeah, I need Red's bearings. I need wet knees. I need, you know,
like, all that stuff, man.
Yeah, and it all kind of, and I look back now and I see why I was so interested in it, because it was the music, the shots, the everything, just like put it together, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, and a picture on the front of like Thrasher or something.
Oh yeah,
like,
big trans world shots for guys.
Yeah.
Like to this, I have a skateboard right over there. It's brand new, and there's 0 miles on it because I'm 45 and I don't want to die.
It looks dangerous now, doesn't it?
But but to this day, I'll still watch skate videos.
Yeah.
Like I'll sit there on Instagram. I still follow a bunch of like the big names,
like
big
Ryan
companies.
Sheckler.
Yeah.
He was like famous at like 12 because he was just insane, and now he's like this grown man. Like,
yeah,
it's yeah. So when I think of it, that's where it started. There was a break. I knew I wasn't going to be a skateboard videographer, photographer. You know, later on in life, it wasn't like I missed it. I wasn't yearning for it, but that hunting show thing, that's what stuck. Then when I got out and shooting it, you know, with those shows comes sponsors.
Right.
And they want their pictures, they want their little segments, they want all that.
Yep.
And I think that's what really made me fall in love with the photography side of it, was getting those shots and almost like being able to, well, I mean, marketing is manipulation.
Yep.
But almost manipulate someone into wanting something with how good that photo was.
Yep.
You know, so building FOMO within people.
And being able to catch it at the right time.
I am your target demographic, man. I am that guy who's like scrolling through the web, because nobody makes magazines anymore. But even so, I still get magazines from time to time. I still have subscriptions to the odd magazine. But like those shots, those money shots of that piece of gear being used in this immaculate vista, like in the mountains or something like that.
That's why we got magazines.
I need a new jet boil.
Right?
I have one already, but
I need that Kuyu jacket for $800.
I know everybody's cut a page out of a magazine and put it on the wall.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like that's why, like,
that was us as teenagers, like growing up in like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
Like pretty sure my room was like entirely Thrasher, Trans World, like like various like Hit Parader and stuff like that, rock magazines and stuff like that. Like, yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah, and so that's kind of where it all started, and I still have that love for it.
So when you moved up to Grande Prairie, I'm assuming you mentioned fracking. So were you fracking
that entire time?
Yeah, like
no.
Okay, so how did
I missed the boom?
Okay, so when you moved up here, you didn't get right into the media, obviously. Like, were you into the oil patch like everybody else?
Yeah,
okay.
I was like, I'm going to be a welder. I'm
oh,
going to be.
Dang, much respect, bro.
I did it for a bit.
You just went way up in my books.
Yeah.
I got
Lucas was a career welder for a long time.
It's tough. I can't remember how many hours I have. I never went to school.
Yeah.
But I like thousands of hours.
Yeah.
And then I went the administrative route on it, and I became a project manager, and then moved rigs a bit when there wasn't a shop that I really wanted to be at. And
so this would be the kind of mid 2000s now. You'd be working in the oil patch and
well, I mean that's
catching the odd gig.
Yeah, so everywhere I worked, we get our vacation time. Yep. I would book that to go and work for someone.
Okay.
Right. So I would go and intern. I think my first gig would have been 2009. We went to the Yukon.
Okay.
He's like, hey, it was back and forth. I was like 19, 20, and I was like, hey man, like, any thoughts yet? Any thoughts? Don't worry. We'll get you somewhere.
Yeah.
Cool. Cause I really want to do it. Yeah. I can hear that. We'll get you. And man, bless that guy's soul. He had patience for me. And then just, I can't remember how many weeks it was notice. I don't think it was that much. He's like, hey, got something going on in the Yukon. Can't pay you, but I'll teach you. And we'll cover your meals and your room and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool. Called work. I was like, I need these dates off. They're like, nope. And I was like, I quit.
Yep.
They're like, we'll see you when you get back.
Yeah, exactly. And honestly, like that's a lesson to anybody who wants to do something. Like you have to be uncompromising with it. You have to want it more than anything in a way. Like you have to be able to make those sacrifices. You have to, like I think I've heard like Joe Rogan say like you can't imagine anybody who's living in that world, like where you're working 9 to 5, you've got a family to feed, you're paying a mortgage, you've got bills to pay. So you have to be bringing in income.
Yeah.
How do you transition? Like, how do you go from that to taking every other waking moment that you have and dumping it into something else and trying to make a successful go of that to kind of break out of your 9 to 5 and all that stuff? Like what you're describing, that's how it's done. That's how it's done, man. You're burning all your vacation. You're making the inquiries constantly. You're not giving up on it. You're not saying, well, I didn't get an answer back the first 3, 4, 5 times, right? I kept going to the point where I was worried I was going to annoy this person.
Yeah.
But I just kept going because that's how bad you wanted it.
But where are you going to be if you don't? Right?
Exactly.
Where are you going to be if you don't? Where will you be if I would annoy Jason? Where would I have been? Same place I was before I started emailing him,
Yep.
So it's like, I can go and 2 things will happen. He'll say, let's go. Or he'll say, leave me alone, kid.
Yeah.
And thankfully it was, let's go, so, and I mean, I live that way now. It's like, I'll send out, cold calls, cold emails. Hey, I have an idea. I love your brand. This, and this. I really think we should partner up and do something. And it's like, what's the worst that's going to happen? They're going to say no, or they're going to ghost you, or they're going to say, let's do it.
Yep.
Yeah. Quick question on the White Lightning media. Are we talking like White Lightning, like moonshine, or what, or where,
I had a
where
truck.
did the name come from? Okay.
I had a truck.
Oh, okay.
It was a F-150, and there was a year kind of where all of this really kicked off, where I guided whitetail hunts in northern Saskatchewan too.
Okay.
So I was like driving there, and I was driving here to film, and I was driving there to film, and I was like, man, White Lightning's taking me everywhere.
Okay.
And then, so when I started my business, it was actually White Lightning Adventures.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then
so you were doing some guiding as well as the media stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I wanted it to all, be legit. And when I was getting paid to guide for the outfit, I had a business, and I was, when I finally said I'm going to give myself a company name, I didn't really get any work coming in. And I was like, what the heck, man? Like, this is such a cool name. I got a cool looking brand. Like, what's going on? Well, everybody thought I was a hiking guide,
Oh,
adventures. Like you don't think of cameras and
adventure means something different for everybody, right?
Yeah. So I was like, well, I'm gonna rebrand and change it to media, and haven't looked back.
Cool.
Yeah.
There you go. So that first run up to the Yukon, what were you guys doing?
Moose.
Okay.
Put together a show for a moose hunt, and that was probably the biggest heart attack I've ever had, was being up there, because we were filming on tape. Yeah. That was all on tape.
Yeah.
And the one, I was terrified I wasn't going to hit record.
No kidding.
You know,
right at the right time.
Yeah. And there's no reviewing. He didn't want you to review, because you go back and then you hit record again.
Just wipe something else out.
It's gone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just feed footage, just burn tape as much as possible, and then take it all home and don't drop it in the water.
And
this was 2009?
9, 10, something like that, yeah.
Fuck, they were still burning tape back then, eh?
Yeah, GL2, Sony GL2.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, you work with what you got. The equipment's not cheap.
Sure. Well, the cameras were bigger then.
Yeah.
So the broadcast quality would have been in the bigger cameras. Now, I mean, this one's Netflix rated.
Yeah.
My other ones aren't. So it was, to get that quality, you needed or even 3CCD. And I think these ones that you guys have are 3CCD now.
Yeah, these ones I think are just recording like 720.
They're just they would have been good then.
Yeah, exactly.
At the time, but
we put this together on a budget.
It's a great budget. I love it.
It looks like an 80s soap opera kind of vibe.
I liken it to the old Access Network stuff I had as a kid, where you'd be like, something would come on, you'd know it was Canadian right away.
Yeah.
Canadian production values is what we're working with here.
No, it's good. Yeah, no, it was tape, and you know, we were a couple days upriver from Dawson City, and you can't just go down to the store and get a new tape and plunk that in. Like, we had what we had. There was 2 groups, and yeah, man, it was unreal.
And the Yukon is wild, man. Like, I'm from the mountains, and that's where I feel the most at home. Like, if I go camping, we head west into, the Tumbler Ridge area, stuff like that. That's where I feel the most at home. When I start getting into the elevation a little bit, the trees change, more pine, less poplar, and I start to feel grounded in there. And
that smell too.
Yeah.
The smell hits you.
A couple of years ago, my father passed away up in Haines Junction up in the Yukon. It was during COVID. I had to go kind of settle as a state up there. And I remember getting, because Haines Junction's like, it's a stone's throw from the Alaska border. It's not a huge drive, but I thought, like, I had grown up in the Rockies, and then I got into those mountains in the Yukon, and it was just like, wow, this is wild. Like, this is the frontier, man.
Yeah. That's interesting, because I have pictures, and granted they're not on great cameras from back then. But when we went out for caribou the first couple days, we were standing on top of those mountain ranges, and like, I look back and it just looks painted.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't look real. And I think back, it doesn't feel real. I don't feel like I was there. Like, it's something else. It's something else being up there and just mountains.
Yeah. It's so untouched, so undeveloped. Yeah. Like, you're off the highway, like 20 feet, and you're in the middle of nowhere, man. There's nothing out there. And
there's something about that area that's just unreal.
And so once you made some contacts in the in kind of the hunting, the media business, how did that go for you? Did it take a long time to get like your next gig?
I kind of just really worked for him and his partner kind of throughout the whole lifespan of that. It was, hey, we got this going on here. Can you make it this date? Hey, are you able to come down? We're thinking of doing this on this date. And, I'd check and see how much vacation time I had, or if I was going to need to look for another job.
And if you're a good hand, they'll try and keep you around.
Yeah. And it worked out really well. I mean, I worked for a couple outfits that were like, yeah, man, we'll see you in a month. Like, thanks for giving us the heads up. We know, I mean, guys take off to do farming.
Yep.
It's a seasonal job. And
yep.
So, I mean, I did that and kind of just worked with them and kind of grew that way and the contacts. 'Cause I mean, those in that industry, they all kind of they all talk.
Everybody
right?
knows everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would go film for this guy when he was up or in the area and kind of bounce around. And then Jason passed away in a plane crash, just kind of south of Grande Prairie there.
Oh, okay.
And that's when I kind of went off on my own and kind of tried to find my way. And I haven't really done much in that hunting space. I do some outdoor stuff. I filmed some pheasant hunting.
Okay.
And I'm just recently been accepted into the professional, the PPOC, or no, POMAC, sorry. The Professional Outdoor Media Association of Canada.
Oh, cool.
Oh, nice.
So I'm essentially press now with that. And I want to get more into it, but there's a turning point in that industry of the TV hunting right now. And I really think Jim Shockey started it, and guys like Steven Ronella are like really perfecting it at this point. The cinematic look, the lifestyle, not the kill, grip, and grin.
Exactly. It's I remember I was watching a podcast with him recently, and he was kind of describing that, how it's much more about storytelling now than it is about, how big that shot
deer was.
And getting that's kind of been done to death.
Yeah.
And I never watched, I watched a bunch of, I've always been more on like the practical, tactical side of shooting. So when I was watching like wild TV and stuff like that,
Best of the West.
Yeah, I'd be watching like either the historical stuff or like the super modern stuff. And I'd occasionally go down the rabbit hole with like Meat Eater and stuff like that and watch some of that stuff. But there's just so much of it. There's such a huge volume of guys doing various types of hunting shows. It was, for me, it was kind of like never really finding like a vein of it that really spoke to me. Because if I was from Georgia, then I would be really into maybe what they're doing down in Georgia.
You'd probably love turkey hunting.
Right? Like those shows would speak to me, right? And it didn't seem to be a lot like specifically from this area. Like so have you done stuff from the Grande Prairie area, or was
as
it
far as outdoor goes? It was mostly the Saskatchewan stuff. There's a couple guys around here. I believe they have shows, but there really isn't much.
The guys from Northern Sun Media, Dalton, I forget his last name. I know he's got something on the go, and there might be a few more.
Yeah, that always surprises me. Like the more I get down this end of things with doing the podcast and talking to people, it always surprises me with how big of a culture there is for stuff like hunting specifically, and again, like on like the rodeo side, the western side, just that whole western lifestyle up in northern Alberta, and just how underrepresented it is in media and in culture in general.
1,000%.
Yeah, there isn't a lot of it here. That's one of the reasons why I started the podcast, was because I found this area to be kind of underrepresented in media, like I said, and also I was kind of concerned that one of the things that concerned me was when I read that the CBC had actually hired a correspondent to live in Grande Prairie.
Yeah,
and I was like, the last people that I want describing Grande Prairie and the Peace Country is the CBC, because this was like right before COVID and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm like, oh my goodness, they're just gonna like come out with like the most heinous version of Grande Prairie. And we've held a lot of like coldest place on earth, most violent place in Canada. We've earned a few accolades over the years, but I was like, part of it was like, man, if we don't tell our own story, then someone else is going to tell it for us, and they're not going to do it justice, because they're not going to talk to the people. Right, they're going to come in with a preconceived idea of who
it's
the Peace
cold
Country is.
It's cold and it's dirty and it's
full of rednecks. And, when it's like nothing could be further from the truth, right? Like,
we're so entrepreneurial up here. There's so much creativity here as well. And there's another creator in town, Mariah Braun. She's really working hard as well to show that you don't need to go to Edmonton and Calgary and Toronto, or bring someone out of BC or the States to film or do photos. We have the amount of photographers in this town is insane.
Oh yeah.
It's incredible. And video work. Like there's super high level to like super, like, we'll get in there and we'll get you some clips of your business, you know?
Yep.
Like there's everything you could need and it's good quality. And people need to realize that that's here. We have that. We have studios. Like there's multiple photographers and videographers that have studios, you know? It's,
Well, Grande Prairie has its own little film festival too every year, right? They do a short, short film festival, and that's one of the things about Grande Prairie is I started out in my late teens, early 20s, making music, and the amount of talent that like per capita around here, like talented musicians, like would blow your mind. I remember one time, a friend of mine, he was my guitar player. We were in a band together, and it was summertime, and we would just walk around with guitars, and hey, we're headed to a house party, so we'd be go play music at this house party. We were walking down the street. He had his guitar. I think he was playing something while we were walking, and some guy comes out of his house, just like, "Hey, what kind of guitar is that?" So my buddy stops, and he's like, shows him his guitar, and he's like, "What are you guys doing?" And we're like, "Oh, we're going to meet up with some guys. We're going to go play this show at this party, whatever." And he's like, "I'm a record producer from way back in the day, but he's up here doing oil and gas stuff now." Yeah. He's, married with kids. And he's like, "You should come check out my studio." So we end up in this guy's house for like 3 hours drinking beer. He's showing us his guitar collection, showing us the music that he worked on. It was just like he was looking for some kind of creative outlet, some connection.
Yeah.
But Grande Prairie also has a shortage of venues, of places to put it out. And that's when I see like somebody like yourself, hanging out over the guardrail at bull riding, and I see, okay, White Lightning Media. Like, what is this? Yeah. What's this guy doing? Because I struck out on my own to do my own thing. When I started Gray Range Media to host the podcast and publish books and stuff like that. So I get curious right away, because it's also something that very few people are doing in Grande Prairie or in this area. And it's just such a great place with such great people, so much talent, such great stories that we just need more of it. So how did you transition from doing like the hunting stuff into doing rodeos and stuff like that?
I've always loved rodeo. We had we had Falkland Stampede. We had the IPE back where I grew up.
Okay.
It's fun, man. Like every inch of it is so interesting and loved for its own reason, from the vendors that are there, like the street food, to the people making hats, and to the timers, the bullfighters, the riders, ropers, racers, everything, man. Like it's all got its own story, why that is there and when it became part of it. And really my transition started when I realized that I love telling stories, because as much as I am thankful for the outdoor stuff, it seemed like it was really in we'll sit here for 8 hours and we'll wait and we'll wait and we'll wait. And we'll wait. And it's like, where's the story? Like, granted, I feel confident I can tell a story about almost anything at this point. But I just didn't feel it. My heart wasn't in it by the time I kind of went off and started doing my own thing.
Right.
And I still love it. And I gotta, pay my dues to it. It is where I started. It's where I cut my teeth. But the Steven Rinellas and Shockies are who are creating, who are really sparking this like cinematic storytelling version of it, where it's not about this thing that we're killing. It's about like, man, I got my kids out here today, or we're doing this with this person who's never hunted or never shot a gun. And we took them, we trained them. Yep. And, an episode later, this person is like so hooked on hunting. So it's the story. It's all the story. So rodeo has its own story and its own history and
characters.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Everything, like from the stock contractors. I talk a lot with those guys, the guys that bring the bulls around. And for those that don't know a lot about rodeo, the athletes aren't just the riders.
Yep.
The animals are athletes. And in the pro circuits, even the semi-pro circuits, they have their own rankings too.
Yeah, the bulls get a score.
And they get their own score,
yeah,
you know?
A PBR high-level bull riding score is 50% the bull, 50% the rider. And they even got like full-out nutritionists and stuff like that for the bulls now. They're on like, they treat them like high-level athletes, trying to bring them up, and you know, guys make a lot of money off these bulls.
I love it. And man, when you talk about character, these small rodeos, like it just in our area, Cranberry Lake and Rio Grande, like these small rodeos are so cool.
Yeah, I've heard about I got some buddies that go up to the Rio Grande one on a regular basis. Go to Rio. Yeah, they've told me about it.
Yeah, you gotta go to Rio.
Yeah,
and Cranberry Lake is another really good one. Oh, okay. DeVolt.
Yeah, I can see that.
That one, that's right off the road. I mean, it's hard to miss. But again, you know, there's good food everywhere there. Just, you know, guys slinging food out of a truck, and you just, it's an experience. And at these smaller rodeos, you're closer and you're more involved, you know?
Yeah.
You're right there. You're not, the infield isn't, you know, 150, 200 yards wide. So you're like looking at little dots bouncing around. Like you're right there.
Yep.
And I don't know, there's something about rodeo.
Yeah.
That's why they sing about it so much.
You been on a bull yet?
No.
Do they offer? They're like, hey, Kelsey, you got to jump on this sucker?
Well, I said, when do I get my buckle a couple times? And they're like, you got to get on a bull.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, fair. I'm not going to, if I got to do it, I mean, I'll do it. I don't know if I'll get on a bull. I maybe do a steer, but.
Yeah. Part of me thinks I'm just crazy enough to do it.
Yeah.
And that's the last thing I ever do. It's like,
Well, the worst part would be if you had two people on the other side of a table saying you could probably do it.
Yeah. Well, that's just it.
I actually think you'd be good at it, Dave.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's one of those things where where you're kind of like, not where you're looking at it, you're like, I could do that, but I could imagine doing something that's that crazy, but it's like that risk reward thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, yeah, that'd be totally exhilarating and totally amazing. And it's like, or we can like go out like JB Mooney and break my neck. So which is very likely.
If you were going to do it, would you like go pro up and like you'd have to film the whole thing?
Oh, absolutely.
There'd be
absolutely. There'd be 400 camera angles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slow-mo. There'd be a high-speed camera to see exactly when I screwed that up 1 second in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I remember, was it UFC fighter? So Cowboy Cerrone was looking to get into a bull riding thing. Yeah. So he was training with Dale Brisby. He's getting him on a bunch of training bulls, and he's just coming off just a total wreck. And I was like watching that, and I'm like, that really is not as easy. You'd think a guy with this like fighting career, there's fewer, tougher SOBs in the world than Donald Cowboy Cerrone. And then watching him try to learn how to ride bulls, I'm like, dang, that must be hard. It's not like riding a bike, man.
Well, and I mean, I don't want to like overstep my knowledge, but even fighting, boxing versus jiu-jitsu, they're completely different. You carry yourself differently.
Yeah, I mean, they're related in the fact that they're fighting, but it's two different things. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, I think, I mean, you could be a fighter, you could be strong as nails, but you get on a bull, like you got to know a little more than just how tough you are.
Yeah.
You got to have a little bit of crazy, obviously.
Yeah.
And then follow it up with like, you got to move with that animal. You got to know where you're sitting. Is it on your pockets or are you holding it with your, like, you got to know where you have to be and when this thing lands like this, where it's going next.
Yeah.
And it's just like, what was the book? It was The Sports Gene, I think. It came out quite a while ago. They talk about MLB. They know if they're swinging at that ball halfway through that pitcher's throw.
Yeah. Because
it happens so quick.
Yeah.
So same thing. I mean, you can be tough as you want to be. You could be Cowboy Cerrone.
Yeah.
Right? It
exactly.
doesn't matter. You gotta, there's just.
Well, like you're saying, there's a level of athletics to it because they've already done the studies on so your big pro baseball or whatever, like the density of high twitch muscle fiber and stuff like that, like will determine how good you can be. If you do not have a certain amount of density, you will never throw a pitch that fast. You'll never hit a ball that fast. Like you just will never get there.
Yeah.
And I mean, being I don't know, a huge fan, but I would say I've watched a good bit of bull riding. And I could see like your ability to adapt, your ability to like those reflexes where you're really making decisions of how you're orienting your body in 3D space on the fly. And then to watch these guys, like the best of the best, it's still like literally voluntarily getting into a car crash, like 3 times a day while you're in a tournament, right? Like just put me in this car that I know is going to crash. And there's a slight chance that I'll get off without, a concussion.
Well, there's that randomness to it too. Like you're riding an animal. It's not a machine. Like this thing is going to do whatever, like you can't program it. It's not, he might go to the left, he might favor it, and he might jump a certain way, but until you're on there, and then it's like,
and you are coming off that thing and it's not going to be happy.
No. And I think one of the crazier things is like when we see the bull do crazy work, but it came out of the chute weird, and they throw a flag, and the bull rider rides through the whole thing, and they go, "Do you want to re-ride?" And he goes, "Yeah,
I want to do that again." I was already going to do it 3 times today, but I want to do it a 4th. And they're injured too. They'll be like limping, and they'll be like, "Yeah, put me back on there, coach." Like
150 pounds of tape on their shoulders and wrist and everything, and they're just like, "Yeah, let's go, get it on."
It's worth it for some of those paychecks too.
Love's still on.
There's some of those guys make pretty good money doing it, right?
Yeah,
a lot of prestige,
and it's an adventure, right?
Yeah,
it's an adventure. You get to go do things that not everybody does. That's why I came up here. I could say I moved up here for money. Yeah, the money was nice, but when I was moving rigs, I was doing things that people would only see on Discovery Channel.
Sure.
Where I grew up,
Yeah.
Like you get on a circuit riding bulls, you're doing something that like people watch on TV. Or they watch from the stands, and that's all they'll ever see. They won't even see it from the chutes.
Yeah.
So it's all an adventure, and I mean that's plenty for some.
Yeah, I think it's the people too. Like those are the kind of things that drag you into that and keep you coming back. Right? Is the community, and I would say like if somebody ever really wanted the experience, and I would say this for damn near anything, is to volunteer. Yep. Like if you want to spend 4 days having some of the best time of your life, volunteer to work a rodeo or even like if you like music, if you're an aspiring musician or you want to be involved in art, go volunteer to work security or work the ticket booth. Because you get free tickets.
Yep.
You're there. You'll work 4 hours of the day. The rest of the time you can just check it out. And you're going to meet some of the craziest, coolest people that you've ever met working some of these events. Like 100%.
Yeah, it's actually I'm not gonna self-promote, but I am working on starting a podcast for rodeo.
Nice.
To talk about just this, right?
Yeah.
Like and the plan is I've had stock contractors on already, and we're just working on formatting and what it kind of how long and what I want it to be like. We're going to have everybody from every single corner, like even the food vendors that I talked about. And even that's like, it's going to be everywhere. And one of the stock contractors actually said just that, like, you want to get into it, come out, you know, these guys, they don't just show up and ride at rodeos. They ride every week. Like they're doing bull riding. They're doing practice rides. They're, you go out to teepee, there probably isn't many days of the week that, there isn't a bunch of bulls out there that someone's bucking.
Oh yeah.
And it becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like taking your kid to club basketball,
Oh yeah.
You got practice and then you got a tournament, Yeah. It's all the time. And they said just that, like, you want to be a part of it, come help load chutes, come help move bulls around, come
get involved,
come sort.
Yeah.
And they actually, because we're doing some work together, we named a bull. It's a yearling right now, but
nice.
It's White Lightning.
It's a perfect name for perfect. May it have a long and prosperous career.
Here's hoping, and hopefully it's rank.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm hoping.
Nasty creature.
Yeah. Get out there and make some money. Oh, that'd be awesome, man. So you started up your company, White Lightning Media. You've done some of the outdoor stuff. You transitioned out into rodeo. Do you have like an overarching goal? Do you have like a I guess, do you have like a big dream? Do you have like an end state where you'd like to see it, or just like, are you looking at the next step, just kind of head down, plugging away?
So I'm not quite niched out yet. Like I'm not just the rodeo guy. I'm not just the outdoor guy. I'm everywhere. Yeah. Someone called me unavoidable once. Like I'm doing like business commercials and sports, rodeo, weddings. I take on 2 weddings a year now.
Oh, nice.
I love telling stories. My end goal is a production house. So have a couple shooters, both video, photo, editors, an assistant to kind of run all that. And then I just go out and I tell some of the coolest stories ever and put together documentaries and just, I'm not the expose side of things doesn't quite interest me. I'd rather tell a story of someone's achievements than be like, look who this guy is, or look how bad this was. I just want, like, even like I chatted with people from Alberta Wildfire, and I was like, I want to tell the story of what you guys are doing, not necessarily the destruction behind what's you're trying to stop, but what you're doing and how dangerous it is and how appreciative we should all be of you guys holding it down for us.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I believe is, this Grande Prairie and this area growing the way it is, like you're on the ground floor of something really special, because there's a ton of amazing stories to be told. Grande Prairie is incorporated county number 1 in Alberta. There's some old families up here. Yeah. There's some stories that I've heard about this part of the world. I've never tracked down the truth of them. Yeah. But like literally like Old West outlaws, like running up here and hiding in the day. Like there's some crazy stuff that's happened up here. I have met some of the wildest people in Grande Prairie who have told me stories that, we're talking with this old guy and he starts telling me, we just got back from Japan. And this old cowboy who's driving truck in the oil patch, and he talked like Clint Eastwood. He didn't open his mouth. And he's just like interesting from the beginning. Like from the moment that you meet him, he's an interesting dude, and you can just sit there and listen to him tell stories forever. Yeah. And we had just gotten back from training martial arts in Japan, and he asked me where I had been for a couple of weeks or whatever. And I was like, I was in Tokyo. And he's like, did you fly out of Narita? And I'm like, yeah. And he starts telling me this story about how he was doing the oil field stuff and ended up as part of some energy project in Japan. And it's like, what? Like, how in the world? And he starts,
that's one of those guys, though, that was like, here's an opportunity. Yep. Even myself, when I was fracking, I went and fracked in Romania and Poland.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I had friends that have worked overseas doing that kind of stuff.
And some people are like, oh, well, you went to work. It's like, no, it's a different world. Yeah. You're not in a different country where people are paid to smile because you're at a resort. You are in it with people that don't want to come to work that day because they are tired. They want to stay home with their family that is just down the road. And you get to it was probably one of the cooler things that I've got to do is
my brother did a few months in Oman.
And
it was I would say a life-changing experience. I mean, you're seeing something from a completely alien perspective, right?
Yeah, and people don't think about that when they think about the energy industry in northern Alberta. They think about, I don't know really what they think about, but they think about, these rednecks working in the bush and punching holes in the ground. And, they have heat in their house because of that, or gas for their vehicle, and that's as far as their understanding goes. But if you're the kind of person who says yes to opportunities, if you're the kind of person who shows up every day, gives it their best shot, you're willing to learn, you get along with people half decent, the opportunities that come are pretty amazing. That you can travel the world and do that kind of stuff. I got to learn
in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
learn how to run equipment in Oklahoma. And much like that old timer you're talking about. I bet you he didn't, when someone approached him and was like, you want to go to Japan or something? He wasn't like, well, let me think about it. It was probably like, yeah, I guess. When am I supposed to go? Exactly,
man. Like I said,
whose car are we taking?
Life's not lived on the couch, man.
No.
It's put your hand up, get yourself out there. And I heard a joke years ago. I don't know if the guy was serious when he said it, but he was like talking about he had some kind of STI, one of those ones that doesn't go away. And he's like, that shit's a badge of honor, man. You don't get that shit living your life on the couch. You got to get the fuck out there. It's like, I guess, like, it proves you were out doing something, not just sitting, he wasn't sitting at home playing video games, right?
No, that's just it.
But that's just it. The scars, the failures. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned so far, as far as like your videography stuff and kind of breaking into that industry?
Man, that's a good one. I would, I think one of the biggest lessons is like you just said, it's be the first to put your hand up, don't count anything out. There's story, depending on why you're in it. In my case, there's stories that are more than worthy of being told, that on the face of it, you wouldn't guess that story's in there, or the people you're going to meet. And I'm learning lessons right now, that I can't do everything by myself.
Yep.
As much as I want to, like, I can't. It's taking a toll on my body. Late nights, early mornings.
Yep.
Sometimes no nights at all. It wears on you eventually.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the biggest lesson from all of this is, like, as much as I want to tell every single story that everybody throws at me on a weekend, you can't.
Yeah.
And another good one, the way I heard it was send the elevator down. So when you've reached some sort of a point, it's super lonely. And being up there, I mean, you could be the best, but you're going to be the best by yourself.
Right.
Send the elevator down. Bring someone up, because eventually there's going to be something that you don't want to do anymore. And you got to hand that torch off to someone that wants it more. And
building a team.
Yeah. Yep. Right. And their heart is going to be like, I don't think I'll ever not love rodeo, but just for example, if I want to leave rodeo behind and go and strictly chase, CFL or NFL.
Sure.
Right. Rather than just walk away from rodeo, I need to do it the justice that I thought I'd been doing it, and bring someone in and say, let's do a masterclass. Yeah. I'm gonna give you the keys right now. So let's get to work. So learning to hand some of this stuff off has been probably one of my biggest lessons that I've needed to learn, and just like pausing and knowing that this is just not in my control.
Yeah.
It's not. None of it is. None of it is. Not any of it.
Well, it takes a certain amount of drive to be successful. And then when you become successful, it's hard to let it go. Do you feel like there's other people that are you working with anybody right now that you're kind of waiting in the wings bringing up that are kind of, and if so, do you find it hard to trust people like with the same, that they'll do this, have the same level of commitment to the project as you do? Is that kind of a tough
one? That one is tough. I do work with some creators. Mariah is one of them. I do a lot of work with Mariah. There's some good storytellers out there. Everybody's going to tell the story in their style, right? Nobody's ever going to be me. I'm not going to be them. I think there's lots of people that will do these stories justice. I mean, you guys are doing a great job yourselves doing this, I never would have guessed that there's people out there telling stories about municipal government the way you guys did. That was excellent. So being open-minded and not gatekeeping, I think is the new go forward as a creator. We can't 100%. Gatekeep. We cannot gatekeep anymore. It can't, like when someone's like, what camera are you using? Don't go tell them a Sony GL2 from 2009 or, I'm using my phone. Like, don't be a jerk. Let them know. If they can afford it, and realize that it's not just the camera that's getting that shot. Like I seen the funny video of someone that's like, oh, your camera takes really good pictures. And, you know, the photographer sits there and stares at the camera on the floor and it's like, that thing, it's not doing anything right now.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like,
yeah. And I've seen that too. Like I've seen some podcasts with some amazing production value, and a lot of it, like you see a lot of stuff now in the space that's very curated.
Yep.
Very, very well polished, and power to them. Like if you've got money behind you, you've got production value behind you, you've got professionals editing your stuff, you've got an agent vetting your guests.
Yes.
You're bringing in, high profile guests with a very set conversation. That's awesome. Do what you're doing. For what we try to do, this is very, we try to just keep it as authentic as possible. Literally conversation. This whole thing was spawned during COVID, sitting in my basement, drinking some beers, talking shit. And my buddy was just like, hey, you should have a podcast. But I was like, that's the dumbest idea ever.
That is what is missed. That is what is missed is I'm not going to tell everybody what you're shooting with. If they want to know, they can ask you.
Sure.
But like, it doesn't have to be this cinematic camera.
Yeah.
Every single time. It helps to have someone know which angles are going to help you stay engaged.
Mm-hmm.
But 360, 720, 1080, 4K, whatever. Yeah, it's great to watch. Those guys, Joe Rogan's is even blurry.
Yeah, I've seen the cameras that he uses. They're not the best top of the line cameras. They just work.
Podcasts aren't video, but it's nice when it has video.
Yep.
So it's a bonus. Like anyways, it's like, oh, I'm not going to listen to the Gray Range because, it looks like crap. Well, then why were you watching in the first place? Don't you want to hear what they're saying? What they're talking about? Or you just want to watch them like move their mouth around? Like, I'm sure they can get you a really expensive camera to watch them just make mouth movements.
Yeah, for sure. And it's going to be based on your content, right? Like if you
stories you tell.
Yeah. The whole idea of this podcast was, again, during COVID, I was fleshing out some story ideas for some books I wanted to write. And part of that story generation is character generation.
Yep.
And so as I'm kind of populating these stories with people, I realize I'm just making up human beings. And they're based on people who I've met,
right?
Because I'm not just pulling stuff out of the ether and attributing this personality. It's all based on people I've met. So it kind of got me thinking about, well, man, I've met some interesting characters in my life. Yeah. I've had the benefit of doing some cool stuff and meeting some cool people. I was like, well, wouldn't it make more sense just to get them to tell their story rather than for me to like co-opt half their story and stick it into another fake story that I made up?
There's another outdoor podcast that I love, and they don't have video, and man, do they tell stories so well. I don't know if you want me to say the name or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Fire it up.
The Bear Grease podcast.
Okay.
Have you listened to that one? So it's part of the Meat Eater Network.
Okay.
So the Meat Eater podcast is great and all.
Yeah.
But Clay Newcomb, the way he tells his stories, you'd love it. I guarantee you both would love.
I'll check it out.
So he talks a lot about American history.
Yeah.
The render. So when you look, it'll have like a name, and then it'll say a follow-up one that says the render. The render is where they all sit around and they talk about the story that he just told. So it's basically a documentary on tape.
Yeah.
And so that's what I hear you explaining right now. And you talking about that old timer.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's something that I wanted to do too, is just take a recorder.
Oh yeah.
And if we got to hook them up on mics, ride horses with them just to talk, like that's what we need.
Yeah. Well, capturing those stories, and when people die, their story goes with them.
Yep.
So
yes,
unless they wrote a book or unless they did a documentary or unless it was captured at some point, all their experiences and all their lessons go with them. And
the way they talked, whether it's like Clint Eastwood out the side of his face or whatever, all of that.
Well, yeah, we look at like a guy like that who's been done nothing but talk about other people's stories, when his own story is probably pretty damn interesting.
Yeah.
Right. So it's when I started looking at this whole thing with what's going on online and some of the content that I enjoy, it's just very authentic, very much. It's just that person doing the thing that they love.
Yeah.
And you're seeing how much they enjoy, being out in the wilderness or hunting or interacting with other people. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, one of the things that really stuck with me is, I don't know if it was a podcast or something that I read, but it was an interview with a veteran who'd come back from, special forces, Afghanistan, Iraq, that kind of stuff. They had a full career. They survived all this crazy stuff. They had all these crazy stories, all these deployments that they did, all these awards, all these accolades. And you would think like this person has, wow, what a life.
Yeah.
Like all the stuff they saw, all the stuff that they did. And they got asked, like, what's your biggest regret? And, obviously this person's been in war for decades. They've had friends killed. They've, sacrificed a lot for that job. And they said, I wish I'd taken more pictures.
Yep.
And that really stuck with me because I was like, man, all those people that are gone, all those things that are in your past, that's all you have.
Yeah.
All you have for those memories is either just the stuff in your head or what you took from it, what you managed to capture, those little moments that you managed to piece away. And then those things suddenly become super, super precious later on because that's all you got.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. If you can think of someone that you aren't involved with anymore and haven't been for the last, let's say, 20 years, someone you went to school with, can you hear their voice?
Somewhat, yeah.
How long do you think until that's gone?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, most of it's gone now.
Most of it's gone, yeah.
Right? So it's I mean, we want to hold on to the Sam Elliott's of the world and the Morgan Freemans.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rather than just tell people they had a really cool voice. Well, how cool? I don't know. You had to be there. So so that's why I really advocate for like a wedding video.
Yeah.
Sure. I get paid to make a wedding video, but I only do 2 a year. And it's because I want to focus everything on that. I don't want to be bombarded with videos and not have my heart in each one of them. So there's been a couple where someone's like, hey, I'm not sure if you still have this footage. I know it was like a year ago. But when I was talking with my grandpa and you were filming that, well, he's no longer with us.
Yeah.
You got their voice.
Yep.
Right.
And something that turns out to be like a core memory for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would love to have that footage, love to have that. I mean, I think everyone's there and we all have phones. You got YouTube, you got people live streaming life all the time. And some of it's like blows my mind what people will put online. But it's still their story.
Yep.
No matter what it is, it's still their life and their story. And maybe they're making bad decisions like, thank the Lord we didn't have video cameras in everyone's pocket when I was a kid. Man. There's
we could be millionaires.
Yeah, there's a handful of videos of me from parts of my life that I'm like, that's never seen the light of day. But now it's such a thing where it's out there, and I just think there's so much value in capturing that, making sure those stories do get told, man. I know there's some old cowboys that I've met in the oil patch who were doing rodeo in like the 70s who have told me some stories that would just curl your hair, man, like just wild living that I don't think those stories can be told now because those guys have their own way of talking.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, man, like capturing that kind of stuff, because when it's gone, it's gone.
It's exactly. I mean, it's kind of goofy, but we just watched Coco the other day, the cartoon.
Yeah.
Where they, was it Dia de los Muertos? I can't remember. Day of the Dead.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when your family forgets you, you disappear from the afterlife.
Yeah.
Like you're gone forever. So it's, once those are gone, those stories are gone. They're gone. And I still want to start it, but I wanted something called White Lightning Stories to tell the stories from our area.
Yeah.
Not just like what we got going on right now.
Yep.
But why this is this way, or why is Richmond Ave where it is, or, and find those people, those old families that have been around forever, and just hear what they have to say.
Dig into the history and get it recorded.
Yeah. Whether it's on video or not.
Yeah.
I think there's a space for that. And I think a lot of people want to hear what we have going on around our area.
Well, I think with what's happening right now with media, with AI and everything like that, we're at this point where authentic content is going to be something totally different than what's going to come after it. There's going to be two kinds of content. There's going to be raw content where it's a bunch of human beings interacting on unfiltered, unedited camera, audio, video, that kind of thing. And then there's going to be everything else.
Yeah.
Because AI is going to touch everything else.
Yeah.
And it will be altered, and it will be airbrushed, and it will be, animated, and it'll be, what do they call it? Augmented reality now?
Yeah.
It'll be augmented reality. So you'll have real reality and you'll have augmented reality.
Yeah. I think we're already in that space because of gaming and esports, right? You might not be able to make the NHL, but you could make $1 million playing NHL, 2025, right? And I think what's really important right now is if you can in any way, shape, or form, get educated in AI and not rely on it, but leverage it.
Yeah, I play around with it a little bit. I use it like when we make clips of the show, I use a company called Opus Clip, and basically they just rip the YouTube video right out of YouTube.
Yeah,
AI breaks it all down using a template that I've designed, all the text editing, all the emojis and all that stuff. That's all AI. It actually goes through and actually pulls the audio and then searches the audio for what's trending and then gives you scores on what clips will likely do better than other clips and stuff like that. It's interesting, some of that stuff. Some of the video stuff, like we're getting to the point now where we're going to see some pretty amazing video stuff. And I think it definitely has its place, but I think more of that exists, the more that the authentic and the real will have more value.
Yeah. Because
it'll be more distinct, and it's going to be, you'll have, much like when you had like hand-drawn animation versus CGI animation, right? Like it's two totally different eras.
I'd be interested to see if you went on ChatGPT and got it to write a script for you, but you explain the characters the way like you were just talking earlier.
Yeah.
Explain the characters to it. Say there's this guy, there's this guy, and there's this guy, and they're going to go do this, and just in the detail that as far as you can go, and just see what it spits out. I think you could probably come up with like a cool short film.
Yeah, well, I've even I've been playing around with some AI. What do they call it? It's basically AI movie making.
Oh, okay.
So,
there's a ton of that on YouTube now. Like I've clicked on videos that, because the algorithm, like, oh, what's this? It's a short video, and it's all AI generated.
Yep.
The voice.
So I take text from one of my pieces of poetry, upload that, and then describe what I want the video to look like, what the kind of voice I want, how fast I want it read, all that kind of stuff, and it comes out kind of clunky, but mostly because I'm using free software. Like I'm using the free AI stuff. I'm not paying the $200 a month or whatever for the really high end stuff. It's neat to play around with. It's neat to see what's out there.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever going to replace this. I don't think it's ever going to replace what you're doing when you're out there with your camera, when you're out there getting that video footage of that guy, coming off that saddle bronc or whatever. Yeah. When you're there and you're capturing that, that's the living vicariously through.
Yeah, that's what keeps me going and not going, wow, AI's here, I'm cooked.
Yeah.
Because I know, me personally, I still want to see the view from the Shark Tank.
Yeah.
The cage or shark cage, whatever they're calling it at PBR, I can't remember. But like when I got to sit in that was cool.
Yeah.
And because like whenever I'm at these rodeos, I'm like, can I just stand out there? They're like, no. Like, you didn't sign the waiver. I'm like, give me the waiver.
Liability,
yeah, give me the waiver. And then when they're like, you want to go sit in the cage? And I'm like, yeah.
Well, that's why we always try and get like not at the chutes, but a little bit forward of the chutes. Yeah. And then so whenever that bull turns left or turns right and it comes into the guardrail, you're like right there.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty awesome. It's like sitting on the boards when you're watching a hockey game, right? The guy gets just creamed right in front of you. It's like,
I want to know why the chutes are always they open to the inside. I want them to open towards the crowd. So when they
that makes a lot of sense, eh?
So they turn out and into the crowd, and you get to see. There's got to be a reason why they all go to the inside, but
yeah, one would assume.
Yeah,
I have to track that down. Talk to somebody who's setting that stuff up.
Man, I'm booking rodeos already, so.
Nice.
I'm going to be questioning them, and I mean we're going to be running that podcast, so that's going to be one of the ones.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd love to talk to somebody who's some of these young local bull riders here. I'd love to find out. Like,
I'll get you some names.
What's ticking in your head when you're watching that and going, yeah, that's for me, right? Like, I get it. I think
it's that call to adventure, man. Is that danger factor?
Yeah, exactly. Because there's a lot of. There's bragging rights in few things like amongst dudes that you can say.
Think about it.
That's
like this.
One of them.
Why, as a kid, would you take a bike to the top of a great big hill with a ramp at the bottom? Like, I wonder how far I can.
A ramp you built, and you have no idea about physics or construction.
Right. And let's build this ramp bigger.
Yeah, exactly.
And let's see what happens. Like, there's that certain amount of.
Well, that wasn't so bad. I wonder if I put someone underneath that ramp.
Yeah, exactly.
We could probably go 3 people.
Yeah. Well, there's always some kid who'd be like, I'll lay down. I want to see what it looks like when you jump over me, right? That's the kid who's eventually holding the camera.
For sure.
I got pictures of that. And we're jumping each other on our dirt bikes.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. It's all about the shot, right?
Yeah. It's
what's the one martial arts, in the Bujinkan, we were training with Nagato, I think he was.
Yep.
Make it look cool, he said.
Yeah, make this look cool.
Yeah, it's with the 3 rules of gun safety. Rule 1, have fun. Rule 2, look cool.
Yeah.
That one's different.
Yeah, so if you're gonna go out and do it, you want those money shots, right? You want those pictures up on your wall where you look at it and you go, when you're 60 years old and your body's broken and you can barely walk up and down a flight of stairs. You got the pictures that said, yeah, I was there. I did that. That's me.
I got tons of range footage from like people in our class too. Like we'll have a class of, 10, 12 guys and they're running and gunning and I've got it all on my phone. And at the end of the class, like, yeah, just give me your number, whoever wants the footage. And people they're just smoked to get it because it's kind of like they can go back and relive that moment, right? They're going through this very tough training evolution or something that was very difficult for them, but they're having a good time. They got this big shit eating grin, and to be able to sit back and then watch that video later, it just brings back the rush.
But then they go and talk to their family. Yeah, I do this. Oh, well, how's that work? And it's like, well, you do this. I can't really see it, and there's not bleachers where they can go and sit there and watch everybody do that stuff. Right.
Yeah.
But even still, like even rodeo, like, they love it when you just film their ride. If you just hit record, they come out, they do their ride, and then stop recording, they want that.
Oh, yeah, they want to learn from it.
They want that. They're going to learn from it. They want to show people, here's how my season's going. They have sponsors, too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Here's how I'm doing. You can see your logo on my vest.
Yeah.
All of it. Barrel racers, same thing. They want videos. A lot of them want a drone shot of the whole thing. So just go up above. And they'll run their route, and they just want that.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
There's nothing creative about it. It's just
some of it's technical. Like they want to watch how they perform. Like I know I blew it here.
Yeah,
what did that look like? And then you can sit there and pick it apart. But any good athlete wants video, right? They want as much tape of themselves as possible.
Video's a powerful tool. Like even Dave and I were discussing the other day. We were talking about the early episodes of the podcast. And, he watches it way more than I do because he's doing all the editing.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got the easy job. I just sit here and talk, and then I leave, and it comes out a few weeks later.
I watch every episode.
You're doing great, by the way.
Yeah,
3 or 4. I watch every episode about 3 or 4 times before it comes out.
You're preaching to the choir here, man.
One thing that I noticed is how both of our mannerisms have changed and our interview style has changed because you have this chance to watch yourself on tape, and you're like, man, I'm a fucking idiot, or I don't like the way I do that certain thing, or I have this annoying thing that I do. And it might be because initially we're maybe nervous with the cameras or we're just new to this whole thing. Like we don't know what we're doing. We're just a couple of guys making it up as we go along. So it's video is a powerful learning tool to be able to watch yourself and then make corrections and try and, put the better you out there.
Yeah. It's a badge too.
Yeah.
Like it's like a Boy Scout badge, you know. I was here, now I'm here. I could look back on some of the videos I started out making when I went full time. I'm like, oof, it's a good thing I didn't charge anything for that video, you know.
Yeah, like, the reason that was free.
And I was just like, man, Hollywood, put my phone there, they're calling right away.
Yeah.
And I look back and I'm like, yep, nope.
So do you have any like dream projects? Like you mentioned Hollywood, you mentioned NFL. Like if there was something that you could go and do, if the phone rang tomorrow and it was somebody on the other line.
Please tell us it's Bigfoot.
Is it, man. I will.
Okay, man.
I'll get out there.
We're still looking for that guy.
Yeah.
But if it makes my camera go blurry like the last time, I swear.
Yeah, that's what happens.
I'd love it if like Ford reached out or something. I got to put together like one of those big commercials like that.
Yeah.
You know, the Canadian government just put out a video that was just like, think Canada. It wasn't Liberal Party. It wasn't Conservative. It was just think Canada. And it was everything cool from BC to Newfoundland, right? It was just a quick.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So to put something together like that, I would love to get back into the outdoor space and work with some outdoor brands where it's just like those crazy cool shots where, you know, warm lighting, sunsets just shooting through.
Yeah.
That's probably what I really want to do. And, I mean, when you seen me at PBR, I was just kind of there as press.
Yeah.
So I was really confined to that one, I guess it was the team box, like the hockey team boxes.
Right.
Or I could go stand on the guardrail on the other side.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was allowed. Because I didn't have my accreditation to be able to jump into the ring and run around.
Right.
So I didn't have the insurance that you need to.
And that insurance that come with that accreditation once you're kind of in, you're in.
Yeah. So you get that through like the CPRA.
Right.
So I would love to tell a story of like a bull rider from the start of the season to hopefully the end. But if it doesn't make it that far and they gotta like sit it out because they busted their arm or something, like just tell that story.
Kind of a legacy piece.
Yeah.
Do it.
Like a real documentary.
I don't even know how many of those I've watched on YouTube, but a ton of them.
Yeah.
I've watched a ton of.
They're interesting though.
The story of, because I think I stumbled on the JB Mooney story.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He's got a bunch of different kind of mini documentaries about his career and his life. And then I just got hooked. And I know I'm watching some like dude from Argentina who like, you know, made his way to this circuit, and because South Americans are huge in bull riding.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, he's, you know, NFR champion or whatever. And it's like, yeah, I just got hooked on that stuff. There's a ton of it out there, and it'd be really cool to see that stuff from here, because that's such a huge part of Alberta as a whole, and northern Alberta, and it's part of our culture, it's part of our heritage, and it really is part of you know the why of the way we are, is because of these community events, this attachment to the land, whether it be hunting, whether it be fishing, whether it be, you know, just exploring. And then the producer end of it, the guys who are living out there, the guys who are, you know, running cattle or growing crops and stuff like that. And that rural lifestyle that, you know, Grande Prairie is a fairly large city now, but it's still got that small town feel to it. It's still got that, you know, you don't have to look far to see, you know, rural Alberta you can practically see it from downtown. You can, like, it's still a small enough space, and it still informs the way this place is. And people come here, I think, for that. I don't know if they're consciously coming here for that. They might be from a big city. They're looking for something that's a little slower pace. But as we start to get into this virtual world where augmented reality is more prevalent than reality, and you start to look and you're like, I don't know about you guys, but I'm done with politics, right? I'm done with the news, right? It's so ramped up. It's so much, just the volume of it. And I like that stuff. But even me, like, you've only got so much bandwidth where it's like, man, I'd rather, you know, learn about, you know, people living a much simpler life, and then maybe model my life after that a little bit more.
Regenerative farming.
Yeah. Spend more time outside, right? Yeah. You guys have a billboard. Barton's has a billboard coming into town. If you come in from the west side, that just says, what is it, get outside?
Yeah, get outside and play. Or
yeah.
Get outside or whatever. So I think we got all four corners covered coming into town.
So
that's a great billboard, by the way.
So a brand like that would be one that I would love to work with. Fracking, when I was fracking, man, being out there minus 50, we're moving liquid through steel pipes at minus 50.
Yep.
It's interesting how it's done.
Like, why we got to tell that story. Like, these guys are out there, and they're, people got their opinions. Oh, they're just frackers. They're doing. Oh, they're just. But it's like, you don't know what they're doing to put food on the table for their family.
Even in retrospect, man, the story of how a pipeline gets built.
Yep.
It's when I was a young kid in my 20s, like, that's just what we did. But looking back now, I'm like, that took some.
And if you wanted to see some kind of like wild YouTube series, which gets picked up by Netflix, it's Pipeliner, man. It's you follow a crew through a season.
On that one.
Follow a crew through the season.
Cut this part out. This part out.
What did I see the other day? It's like every oil field crew ever. It's like, what is it? It's like the drunk guy, the crackhead, the guy that's been divorced twice, the angry guy, the guy who
archetype for
the guy who doesn't belong there, the creepy guy. It's just like all these oil field people, but you're gonna run into some characters, and those jobs aren't easy. And
they all have stories, and I remember, pounding away at a pump, and then just like standing up and just like, Pillsbury Doughboy bundled up.
Yep.
And I'm just like looking around at the other guys, working on a pump there and a pump there. And it's just like, we're actually outside working in a temperature that I thought was at each end of the planet. When I first moved up here, like there's that. And I think I hope I answered that question. All right. But there's so many, it's just the level of story I want to tell. Canadian Forces have like incredible ads that come out that are just like, I want to do that. The RCMP, was it Keep RCMP Alberta, that campaign that they did, like where they're jumping out of helicopters and like, man, I just want to shoot that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just it. Like, when I talk about like Grande Prairie being like, you're on the ground level of something like that in a town that's about, to have its own police force, at a town that they're talking about is going to grow so much, there needs to be infrastructure, and part of that infrastructure is media. Right. So, obviously television's not that big of a thing. Used to be, you'd get it on community network, and maybe if you were lucky, you'd get picked up by a major network, but now none of that matters anymore. Now you can produce whatever you want to produce. There are multiple streaming services that you could go with, obviously YouTube being the biggest one.
If nobody wants to buy it, throw it on YouTube, and you can end up making money with it still.
And it doesn't need to be your A stuff. Like, you can be putting together your B-roll. You can be putting together small stuff where you're testing out different stuff to see what takes, see what the audience likes.
Make a couple spec ads.
To see what audience picks up on it. Let me try this tactic. Let me try this tactic. I mean, for me, with the podcast, it's a labor of love, right? It's not a money-making machine by any means, but it was something that became kind of like an idea that just wouldn't go away. Like, after it was Kenton that mentioned it to me, it just kind of, the idea just wouldn't go away. Like, at first I dismissed it. I'm like, that's a dumb idea. And then, 2 weeks later, I've got, brainstorming, storyboarding. I'm putting out, names, ideas. What would I do? How would I do it? Okay.
Looking at cameras on the internet.
The fact that you did that,
right?
Like, any decent creator can look at the fact that you did that and would know that this is going to go in a good direction. Because, there's just do it and start doing it. But a lot of times, like, guys they're just like, man, we have some good conversations when we're loaded. It's like, probably about stuff that you shouldn't be talking about. Right? Like,
and even if it is, it's like, does it register, or is it capturable? Like, is it something you can actually sit down and record and put it together in some kind of format?
More than one night. Right? Because, there's a lot of guys that probably wanted a podcast that talk about the same thing every night, and then they go, We should have a podcast. Well, you guys just had the same conversation for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
You know,
there are 4 million podcasts, I think, right now.
Yeah.
I think that's the last word I heard. When I heard it was a couple of years ago, it was 2 million. But most don't ever become anything. Like a lot of it's people kind of screaming into the void.
Yeah.
Right. Or they're serials. So you're like, I have a specific story I want to tell. I'm going to do it in 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And then they'll do multiple podcasts. So that creator does 10 different podcasts, but each one's 6 episodes long.
And those ones are the most frustrating because when they're like, we're going to do a series, and it's like, this is really good, and it's done, and you're like,
well, now what?
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you said when you were growing up that you spent a lot of time alone, like your sibling was the wilderness. I just wonder, shows like Survivor Man with Les Stroud, Alone, that level of filming. You ever consider doing a project like maybe not? I don't mean like an extreme survival thing, but like, have you ever
like that guy that goes out and like makes the shelters and stuff? And
like, have you ever thought about like doing that kind of thing? Is there any interest for you now? Or is
I dream about being Dick Prenicky.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. Yes.
That's why I watched that. What is it? Luke, the Outdoor Boys Network.
Yeah.
He's got like these videos where that's what he's doing. He's like, I'm going to go survive with a blanket out in the woods all night, like minus 30.
I just watched that Dick Prenicky. I think it was like during COVID. It was like maybe 2 or 3 years ago when I watched it.
Yeah.
It was like the remastered one, and man, I loved every second of it.
Like,
dude.
Like he's living off the land, but he's not like in pure survival mode.
Yeah.
He's got tools. He's got, he's got food. He's got everything he needs, but he's not like, he doesn't have a generator. He doesn't have.
Oh no.
So he's building it by hand.
Homie brings him stuff on a plane every month or whatever.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Man, that like
all hand tools.
I would love to do that.
Yeah.
I would love to. I'd love to put something together with someone. I often get caught up in the legality of it. If someone's like, oh, I just watched him do that, I'm going to go do that. Next thing you know, they're stranded on a cliff and then they sue you because they're like, well, it worked for him. Why didn't it work for me?
Well, even it was like, I think it was this winter, I went down the rabbit hole of like literally guys hiking into the woods and building like a cabin. And not like, it was basically like the advanced level of me building a fort when I was 10.
Right.
Like, so these guys are going in there and they're just like, no, I'm going to dig a foundation. I'm going to, I'm going to pull 300 like giant rocks out of the side of a mountain.
The Russian guy that digs the holes and builds a little hut inside.
Oh yeah,
then
they're living in there, and part of my brain is just like return to the earth. Like, quit your job. Like,
next thing you know, it's 5 in the morning.
Find some crown land and just like go and exist out there. My wife's like, turn it off.
I could be a hobbit and live in a hole somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Some of these cabins are pretty impressive, right? It's like, obviously you got some land. I'm like, just filing this away for later in life.
I think of the tree forts I built out in the woods, and I'm like, I watch those videos now, and I'm like, damn, that's a good idea.
Why did I ever get away from that?
Yeah. Well, I should go and try this. I like a thermal well. Yeah. Dig the hole deeper so you're up higher. I was like, yeah, man, that's a great idea.
Yeah. And I think there's just a part of us that's still always going to be connected. I think there's some people who are like dyed-in-the-wool urbanites.
I think everybody needs to know, like, that should be a skill that's taught too.
Yeah, I think that exposure as a kid, like obviously, we're of the age where we were kind of kicked out of the house in the morning, not allowed back till supper time, and
hopefully,
if you lived anywhere that was out in the wilderness in Canada, there's a lot of it, then you just kind of have this affinity for it, and it's not a place you're afraid of. Right. I think that a lot of people that are in urban areas, I think, they look at the wilderness as something to be feared because they don't understand it, much like people from rural areas look at the city as something to be feared because they don't understand it. But it's just an entirely different thing. But I think as human beings, we have that connection to green space, connection to the wilderness, connection to the earth as it is. Like, I don't know a single person who spends or has spent any time out in the bush who's not an environmentalist in some way, shape, or form, some kind of conservationist, right? You're looking at those things as there's nothing more precious than the natural world, right? And that connection to it, and you're constantly looking for a way to explore it further, or to capture it, or to show it to other people, or to explain to them, like, this is why this is important, not just to me, but kind of to everybody. And
I mean, you nailed it there. Another, just on that note, would be like a conservationist kind of effort.
Yeah.
Shoot something around the biology of what goes into conservation, and really try and share the story that the biggest conservationists out there, the ones that contribute most to it financially and, manually, are hunters and fishermen.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
The outdoorsmen themselves.
100%.
Being able to put something together around that. Like I did a documentary on regenerative farming.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to go even deeper into that. Like that was super cool. I learned some stuff about like that form of farming that I'm like, why doesn't everybody do this? And they're like, well, because they lose money here, but then they gain it over here. And it's like, well, do you really want to calve when it's really cold, or why don't you like do this? And then you calve when the ground's dry and your calves aren't dying or freezing,
losing ears and tails.
Yeah. So that was really cool. So I would love to do the same thing, but around conservation, where it's like, okay, why are they out there? What are the biologists doing right now? And then go from the biologists to the hunters.
Yeah.
What are the hunters doing right now?
So with regards to conservation, is there anything in particular that you're passionate about? Is there any like, cause that's a big,
I think letting people know that the money that hunters spend goes right into conservation.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, huge amount of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know. Like, well, the loudest people in the room don't realize that Ducks Unlimited is hunters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think if you've got a platform, everything is entertainment. Everything is done well is entertainment. The most informative, the most activist stuff, if it's not interesting, if it's not entertaining, people aren't going to tune into it.
Yeah.
People aren't going to identify with it. So I think when you start to build a platform like what you're doing with video and telling stories, there's always a level of responsibility that comes with it, even if it's just to tell that story.
Yeah.
But you have this potential where you can bring awareness. Like when we talked to City Councilor Chris Thiessen, like I've known Chris for decades, and
I remember him back when he was serving at Boston Pizza.
Yeah,
chatting with him there.
Like I've known him for before that. Like I've known him for a long, long time, and it was kind of in my head about when I was talking, like brainstorming people to originally before we ever recorded an episode. It was just kind of like, who are the interesting people I know, or who are people who I met who ended up in unlikely places? It's like, well, I knew you in high school, and now you're doing what? Like, how did you get there? Like, well, how did life weave you to be where you are and doing the thing that you're doing? But then that was the question, was like, oh, wait, I know for a fact that, a couple of elections ago, our election turnout was like 13%. And, in the crazy world that we're in, where people feel all like powerless to kind of control their lives, well, they can get involved in local politics and have much more say in the day-to-day part of their life, things that actually affect them, than being worried about what's going on, what Trump's going to do next or whatever. Something they have no effect on, right? So why get all anxious and upset about something you have no influence on, when the things that you do have influence on, that have direct influence on you, you are not interacting with. So I thought having him on to have that conversation about municipal politics, how you can get involved, that kind of stuff was a valuable thing to do. And I think, when you're setting out to do those things, you get those opportunities. And maybe that's not the core of what I want to do. I like having conversations with all kinds of people, but there's definitely that where you're like, hey, I get the opportunity to maybe inform a little bit.
Well, even the conversation around the signs. Like, why do we want those plastic signs that all look the same floating all over the place?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you paint your own signs and make them bigger and save money?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do something different.
And do something with the kids. You know?
Exactly.
You're like, I don't know. I'm tired of seeing those lawn signs everywhere.
Yeah, they're all the same.
They are.
I don't even read them.
Like we should just is there any like publicly traded companies that you could just buy in before election time?
Probably whoever doing
price has got to go up.
Yeah, what is it? I don't remember. It's like some sort of like poster board or whatever that they use, that corrugated plastic.
Yeah.
Just yeah.
And where do they go?
Every election.
Probably all straight to the landfill.
Right?
Yeah, well, I think people will save them if they plan on running again, but if not, then you've got a whole bunch of signs that are just gonna.
I'm sure. What the hell is it? Chris Workington probably has a storage locker full of all the campaign signs that come out he doesn't seem to be going anywhere. I mean, he's been the MP for a long time.
But I reached out to his team a while ago. There's an election coming up. Maybe I should again. I don't think I'll get an episode out with what we've got in the can already before the election. But
Chris, if you're listening, man, this is me throwing down the gauntlet. Like, step up.
Yeah, maybe I'll reach out to his office again, and that's part of why. Like talking to those local people and looking around in your own neighborhood, your own community, the people around, and just kind of poking around and saying, well, who's who in the zoo out here? Who's doing what? Let's talk about it, right?
Like on your point of like getting the information out and kind of doing your due diligence, and that same episode, like, man, he was so candid about we were trying to pass this, and it was 4-5, and I was a swing vote, and it's like, when you hear people talk like that, you don't go, nothing's getting done in this town. You hear what's actually happening. It's like, okay, well, I understand now why it didn't go through. I understand because they felt this way. And I think like that episode was incredible as far as storytelling goes. As far as telling someone's story, it was super informative. And even I walked away from it. I listened to it over the course of, 5 truck rides, and every bit of it had something that I took away and walked away with.
No, that's awesome, man. Like, thank you so much for first of all agreeing to come on and talk to us and tell us about what you're up to, tell us about what you got planned and all that kind of stuff. Like, this is what we want to kind of shine a light on with the podcast is, people in our community who are doing things, who are trying to carve out their own piece of the world, kind of step off the beaten path and say, like you said, put your hand up and say, yeah, me, pick me, put me in, coach.
Yeah.
Right. Like, let me be the guy. Because that kind of curiosity, it pays, to quote Iggy Pop, it pays interesting dividends, right? The thing unlikely thing that you thought that you were maybe never do, but you put your hand up for it, and then you made that one choice, and that led to another choice, and that led to another choice. And now you're looking at it 10 years back, and you're like, wow, I went from here to here. In your case, you went from sending an email saying, hey, how do I get involved in a hunting show, to
living the dream,
running your own media company, and kind of trying to figure, okay, what next big project do I want to do, right? What can I sink my teeth into next? And I think that's, super important for people to know that that's available to them. You just gotta, put your hand up.
I said, if you're good at something, find a way to monetize it and live your life, because we can all get stuck working for someone else so they can live their life.
Sure.
Why can't we do that for ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man.
I truly hope that this takes off for you guys. You guys are really good at it. I've listened to quite a few over the course of when you started talking to me. And you're doing really good at telling these stories. So keep pulling the people in.
I appreciate you saying that.
It's a privilege that we get to do it, right? Anybody who trusts us with their story, trusts us to come in, share their experiences, and trust us to put it together in a way that's going to do some justice to what they're doing. I think that's the art side of it. Yep. That's the artist in me that wants to kind of capture that and do my best to portray that in a way that people get it, people understand, and show that everybody's got value, man. Yep. Everybody's got a story.
Yeah. And you get the right people around you. You'll feel that tipping point of this is as far as it's going to go until it gets all of my attention. And I hit that point where I was like, I was doing these projects and I was like, okay, I can do this on my 6 days off, but it's only ever going to be this.
Yep.
It's time. And that was a terrifying moment for me to hit.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
To walk away from fracking.
Sure.
Because you make
big money,
decent money doing that and getting sent everywhere to, you know, do I get the expensive itchy band this month?
Yeah.
You know, like,
back to Mr. Noodle.
Betting on
26 cents
yourself,
on sale. Yeah.
That's like just it. Betting on yourself is one of the bravest, most courageous things that you can do, to step out and say, you know, I'm going to put my time and my effort that I was putting in, like you said, to making someone else rich.
Yeah.
So they can buy another boat or whatever.
Didn't even know my name.
Yeah, exactly. and turn around and say, no, I'm going to put that into myself, put that into my own passions, my own interests, especially something as kind of nebulous as media.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of it. And like you said, you're finding your niche. You're finding out stories that people want to hear. I'm totally looking forward to hearing your podcast. Does it have a name yet?
The rodeo one?
Yeah.
What do we call it? It does. I want to say Full Circle. I can't remember now.
Cool. But let me know when you nail it down when your first episode's up. And
yeah, like I said, we filmed one, and I'm hammering out the details on like what the format's going to look like, and you know, like you got a good setup here, and
that works for us.
Yeah, it does great. It shoots great. It's easy to watch. It's easy to watch if you want to watch, or it's easy to listen to. And that's important.
I'm glad to hear it, man.
And that's what I want is I want the consistency. So I want mine to be something that's someone's going to expect 40 minutes, 2 hours, or whichever. And they're going to expect this, and it's going to look this way. And there's always going to be this on it.
Repeatability is really important. If you're going to do something that's going to be long-term, you're going to do a lot of episodes. And once you can kind of streamline a little bit, so it's as little input as possible from you to get that end product, that's kind of where I'm at with this now. Is it doesn't take me as long to produce an episode each time, because this will be, we've made a few dozen of them, but at the same time, it's you want each one to be unique. You want each one to be a little bit different than the last one. To kind of, you don't want to be talking about the same thing time after time. You want to bring in people who at least interest me. Like, that's where my bias comes. It's like, well, what's your podcast about? And I'm like, well, stuff that interests me. So like that's going to be my bias. Is I'm not going to have conversations with people I don't find interesting about things that I don't like. Yeah. That's just not going to happen. Like, that would be disingenuous, and it would be inauthentic to do so. Right.
Yeah. But I also appreciate that you guys have an open mind. Right. So
try to anyway.
Not many people are interested in municipal government. And I keep using that episode. But you guys made that super interesting.
Oh, I'm glad to hear. Well, Chris made it. Chris is an interesting guy.
The three of you did an excellent job at making that. And I went into my group chat of buddies that were like, well, it's one of us should run for council. And I'm like, hey, did you guys happen to hear about this podcast? No, I haven't heard of that. I was like, okay, well, check this out. Chris Eason was on there. It was actually pretty interesting. And they're like, oh, okay, nice. we'll give it a listen. So, like, I'm not trying to pump tires here, but just so you know, that was super interesting, and it was municipal government.
Yeah. So, well, that's just it.
So it's the open mind that you went into that with, that I think really pulled these questions out, and like I was comfortable. I haven't told my full story before about where I started, so you got it.
Well, that's the whole purpose of this.
You got the majority of it here first.
Cool. Is trying to stay curious. Yeah. Right. And the podcast isn't about me. It's not about us. Even though we'll sit here and I'm blessed with the ability to like talk a lot of shit. I can do that for endless.
He can go for hours.
Endless times. Yeah. But that would be boring.
Yeah.
Right. That's not what I'm interested in. I'm not here to listen to myself talk. I don't want to watch a podcast about me.
Very rare do you see me on the front side of the camera.
Yeah, I want to like when I looked over and I saw, saw you leaning over getting these, what to me, I was like, man, that must be a badass shot of that guy riding that bull. And I was like, well, that's something I never thought about, because I'm on the consuming side of rodeo, right? So I'm like, I never thought about the journalistic side, the media side of it. And then to see that you were local, I was like, oh, cool. Like, there's somebody local and obviously not a lot of people, because I'd never run into anybody else who's like, well, what do you do? Like, well, I do media for rodeos. I'm like, never seen that before. So I'm like, to me, that interests me, right? Who is this person doing this? And, how'd they end up there? How'd you end up kind of hanging off the guardrail, getting that shot, right?
Friggin' ask myself that all the time. Like I said, getting the opportunity to film some of those guys I used to watch on TNN when I was a kid. Like, I'm sitting there recording, and I mean, I filmed the premiere too, and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
Like, how did they get my number?
It's kind of surreal, eh?
Yeah. It's and I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't slept for a month. That might have something to do with it. I've just been going and going, and it's
that's awesome, man.
It's great, and I hope that for you guys, that like one day you guys sit down and you're waiting for someone to come sit here, and you're like, he's actually coming here. Yeah. Whoever that might be to you guys,
yeah, like, who knows?
I truly look forward to that episode.
Yeah,
because I know I
got a few bucket list people, but I'm not going to mention them here.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that. Like, but I mean, to see somebody like yourself stepping out into, this is it's not like Hollywood where everybody's into filmmaking, or even in a place the size of Edmonton where there is a scene for that, and there's a community of people doing that.
There's a university for it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're in a place where few people are doing that, and you're figuring it out on your own, and you're figuring out, like you said, your niche, your audience, the stories you want to tell, and you're making a go of it. So that's awesome, man.
Actually, shit, that brings to mind one question I forgot to ask you. Did you, education-wise, did you go to school for any of this, or is this all self-taught?
Self-taught.
Okay.
YouTube University.
YouTube. Yeah, for sure.
Actually, I should give credit to, so obviously Jason taught me a lot. Like, a lot.
Sure.
I think back to
almost
OJT
like
training, right?
Yeah.
Like,
journeyman and an apprentice kind of.
Yeah, like just thinking, I remember, like, establish. I could hear him saying that to me still. You got to establish.
Yeah.
And that was like, zoom in tight and then bring it back so you can see how close we actually are.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, just, editing pictures, sitting there at the table, and he'd be like, if you do this, it kind of does this for you. So I got to give credit there 1,000%. And then another one, I downloaded a course, and I was like, it was a Christian filmmaking course, and it was so informative. I still have it, and I still refer back to like certain modules in that, and it's like a world of gatekeeping will hurt us all.
Yep.
So they put it all out there. There was no like, we'll give them a bit. It was like all of it.
Nice.
And because of that, I was able to sharpen my craft and get better and better and better.
Very cool.
Very cool. So where can people find you online?
At White Lightning Media on Instagram, whitelightningmedia.ca for a website. Yeah, that's about it. I'm pretty active on Instagram and on the website. And
I mean, it's the perfect venue for a guy doing video and pictures.
Yeah, if you're looking for me, I'll be at some rodeos.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cranberry Lake. Hopefully see you guys there.
See the guy with the beard and the White Lightning Media shirt go up and say hi to Kelsey.
Yeah.
So normally we start with a piece, and sometimes we finish with them.
Yeah.
So I've got one picked out here that I don't know. These don't always fit something.
Strap in, folks. That's what I said.
But there's a couple in this collection. Whiskey Painted Holocaust, which is my latest collection. That kind of have a theme. I don't know how I wrote them, but they all kind of have a what would you call it? A rhythm and a rhyme scheme. They're all kind of similar. So this one's called Mama's Ghost. Mama said, "Don't stray from the yard," but I didn't have to go far. as a kid because the world's so large that you never really know where you are. I grew up into a fine young man, met a girl, had the whole thing planned. My whole world on a ring on her hand, now are faced with a future that we can't understand. Mama said, don't stray too far. Mama said, don't forget who you are. Mama said, the world's just a rock and the sun's just a star, so you better love living while you are. Mama told me, go and live like I showed you, so I've been gone, walked the whole world over, even walked in the stars by the hands of God. But it's like Mama said, life's not very long, and when I got home, she was gone. So now I tell my children, don't wander too far. I know one day they'll walk in the stars, but while they're still small, I'm going to hold them all close. Just me and my family and my mama's ghost. In the night, I can still hear her voice in the dark saying, boy, don't stray from the yard.
Cool.
I mean, it fits.
It does.
It fits.
Now, I can't lie. At the beginning, you kept saying Mama said, and I kept thinking like LL Cool J. Mama said, knock you out. But anyways, you can find the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, CastBox. You can help us grow the channel by giving this a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. You can also find us on Instagram, X, Facebook. Check out our website at thegreatrange.com, where you can find every episode of the podcast, as well as merch like the t-shirts and whatever else we have. And obviously, you can find the new book, Whiskey Painted Holocaust, there. And the blog, which Dave uploads to
there's like 2 pieces on there
semi-frequently.
Yeah.
So progress.
Third one's coming.
Right on. Kelsey,
Right.
Really appreciate you.
Thanks,
coming
guys.
on.
I really
you so
appreciate
much.
it. Yeah.
Cheers.
It's been great.
Great conversation. This is the Great Range Podcast. Out.